Being a real fan of an NFL team is hard work. It sure is easy being a Swiftie and a new Chiefs fan these days, isn't it? But true fans know what it's like to endure a 3-win season, to go through being the league's punching bag, or to actually have expectations and see them flushed down in week 3 like it's last night's tikka masala. Start thinking of your team's worst season now. It's time to relive it, or point and laugh at others. Arizona Cardinals, 2003. The Cardinals' 4-12 season under head coach Dave McGinnis wasn't just disappointing, it was the lowest of lows for a franchise already unfamiliar with success. After the departure of Jake Plummer, they struggled on both sides of the ball, ranking dead last on defense and dead last on offense, making even the Chicago White Sox wins. The Cardinals also faced one of the lowest attendance rates in the league, with home games in Sun Devil Stadium often half empty or filled with fans of the opposing team. Atlanta Falcons, 1989. You might think 2007 was the Falcons' worst season when Bobby Petrino quit halfway through the season while Michael Vick was in a federal penitentiary, but that season's tanking led to Matt Ryan. The 1989 season was actually much worse. Despite drafting Deion Sanders, the team went 3-13. Even worse, 2 active players, offensive tackle Ralph Norwood and tight end Brad Beckman, were tragically killed in auto accidents just months apart, marking 3 players passing in 2 years for the Falcons. Head coach Marion Campbell retired after 12 games, something Daniel Jones should also do. Baltimore Ravens, 1996. The Ravens' inaugural season in Baltimore wasn't just bad on the field, it was a reminder of how hard it can be to start fresh, even out of a moving van. They went 4-12, but more frustrating was their historically awful defense, which allowed 441 points, the worst in the league. Bizarrely, they had the 6th best scoring offense, but still got outscored by 70 points over the course of the year. Since that awful first season, though, the team has never had less than 5 wins in a year, making Browns fans seethe with anger every day. Not because of the Ravens, but because they live in Cleveland.
At least we're not Detroit!
Buffalo Bills, 2005. After a half-decade removed from the playoffs, the Bills hit a low point in 2005 with an abysmal 5-11 record. The season saw a quarterback carousel with J.P. Luzman and Kelly Holcomb, and a struggling offense that was harder to watch than EA ruining the Madden franchise. The defense, once a strength, started to fall apart, and head coach Mike Mularkey's decision-making came into question as the season wore on. I mean, they hired Mike Mularkey, so what do you expect? It would take them 11 more years to reach the playoffs as alcohol sales became the #1 revenue source in Buffalo. Carolina Panthers, 2023. You might think that 2001 was the Panthers' worst season, as they went 1-15 with George Seifert as their head coach, but 2 years later they were in the Super Bowl after drafting Julius Peppers. But no, trading a king's ransom for the #1 overall pick, aka Bryce Young, and then going 2-15 and not even having a first-round pick the following year after putting up the worst record in the NFL was worse than showing up to a gender reveal naked. Somehow the Panthers have won more games in 2024, but that's because the Giants exist. Chicago Bears, 1997. The Bears entered 1997 with optimism, only to fall to a dismal 4-12 record. Oh yeah, I had to bring up one of those depressing Dave Wannstedt years. Injuries ravaged the team, particularly on defense. The quarterback situation was a mess, starting both Eric Kramer and Rick Meyer, a choice which is like voting in America. Wannstedt's popularity plummeted, he wasn't fired, and they went 4-12 again. Cincinnati Bengals, 1998. The Bengals' 1998 season was a painful year that encapsulated the franchise's struggles throughout the decade. The Bungles bungled on. Expectations were high with quarterback Neil O'Donnell brought in from the Jets, but the team quickly spiraled to a 3-13 record as they realized they brought in Neil O'Donnell from the Jets. The Bengals would put all this losing to good use by drafting Akili Smith and having a 2-win season 2 years later. Cleveland Browns, 2016. You might think the 0-16 campaign of 2017 was the worst Browns season, but no, it was actually the year before, which was worse. Hear me out. The team drafted Corey Coleman, a wideout, 15th overall, and then QB Cody Kessler in the 3rd round, thinking that would help. It worked out like anyone who sold all their Bitcoin 6 months ago. Then Josh Gordon was not reinstated after failing another drug test. Johnny Manziel was cut in training camp, and RG3 inhaled L's like he does croissants. See, the thing is, there was some optimism headed into 2016, as 2 years before the team went 7-9 and had a decent defense. That shit died faster than Fire Festival 2. The team finished 1-15. Then Hugh Jackson said they can't do any worse, so they Cleveland and up and did worse. Dallas Cowboys 2024. Oh my God, we're witnessing history in real time. This may not end up being the worst season in terms of win-losses, but it will be the most hilarious ever. The Cowboys are tethered to Dak Prescott, who's now lost for the season. They can't adjust to the literal sun, and they are injured to all fuck, while Jerry Jones swears he isn't the problem. In all their home games so far, they've trailed by at least 20 points. Maybe the sun blinding everyone is a genius move so the fans can't see this terrible on-field product. It's getting so bad that we're gonna see Trey Lance soon. This after Jera said he would be going all in on a season with huge expectations. Something is all in, all right, and the city of Dallas has been walking funny all year. Denver Broncos 2010. This was the season that ended with Josh McDaniels firing after a videotaping scandal. I mean, he also sucked as a coach. The Broncos limped to a 4-12 record. Surprisingly, the Broncos don't have that many bad seasons in the NFL. Even the Nathaniel Hackett year, they won 5 games. Quarterback Kyle Orton played reasonably well, but the team had no running game and a defense that allowed the most points in the league. The Broncos would then become the most polarizing team in the NFL, with Timmy Teague starting and everyone hating him because those people hated God. Perna would have been so fun to watch back in 2010. The Detroit Lions 2008. Okay, here is a winless season that I will count as the worst. I mean, duh. 0-16 was, of course, the worst record an NFL team could have, and the Lions made history by being the first to ever do it. Every week it seemed like a new low as the Lions cycled through 5 different quarterbacks and fielded one of the worst defenses the league had ever seen, allowing an absurd 517 points. This season will live in infamy as maybe the worst ever in the history of the NFL. And remember, the Jets exist. Green Bay Packers 1958. It must be nice being a Packers fan, eh? There have only been a couple 12-loss seasons in the modern era in 1991 and 2005, so I had to go all the way back to the McCarthy era to find a shitty season. Not Mike McCarthy, the senator. The Packers hit a low point in 1958, going 1-10-1. Fans had little to look forward to as the Packers seemed destined to stay at the bottom of the league. Vince Lombardi arrived the next season, and the Packers have been a remarkable success since. The frackin' Packers, man. Houston Texans 2005. The Texans' 2-14 record in their 4th year of existence was as disappointing as seeing baby Gronk on your timeline. David Carr was battered behind a weak offensive line, finding himself underneath large men more often than your mom. The team that began its existence with the win over Dallas in 2002 had now compiled a record of just 18-46, and it would take a while before they even sniffed the playoffs. Indianapolis Colts 2019. The Colts 2019 season felt like a gut punch to fans and the organization alike. Just weeks before the season started, star quarterback Andrew Luck shocked the NFL by announcing his retirement, citing years of injuries, mental exhaustion, and suffering trench foot at the second Battle of Bull Run. The team, which had high hopes after a playoff appearance in 2018, scrambled to retool with backup Jacoby Brissett at the helm. And then injuries piled up across the roster, affecting key players like T.Y. Hilton and Marlon Mack, which further hampered the team's potential. The Colts somehow limped to a 7-9 finish, which was more disappointing than an Asian kid who doesn't become a doctor. That's actually me. I'm Asian kid. Jacksonville Jaguars 2012. Going 2-14, the Jaguars hit one of their lowest points. There are many. The team struggled mightily on offense with Blaine Gabbert and Chad Henne both looking far from the franchise quarterback Jacksonville needed. Attendance was so low, there were rumors about the team relocating to London. Literally another country, not even on this continent. Kansas City Chiefs, 2008. Does anyone remember when this team actually sucked? AFC West fans can self-relate to the 2008 season, the last under Herm Edwards. I totally forgot he coached the Chiefs for a few years. Even worse, after this 2-win season, the Chiefs hired Todd Haley, who despite one playoff appearance was a total ass clown. The Chiefs' last losing season was back in 2012, and that makes all of us want to vomit. The Las Vegas Raiders, 2006. When the Raiders were still in Oakland, their 2-14 season in 2006 was a complete disaster. The offense was historically bad, scoring just 168 points all season, and quarterback Aaron Brooks struggled behind a porous offensive line. Art Shell, who had previously been a successful head coach with the Raiders, the same team, returned for this season, but it quickly became clear the game had passed him by. Of course, the Raiders would use this losing to draft Jamarcus Purple Drank Russell. Los Angeles Chargers, 2000. The Chargers went 1-15 in a season that left fans questioning the future, just like back then when we questioned whether the Y2K bug was real. Quarterback Ryan Leaf, the number 2 overall pick in 1998, had already flamed out spectacularly, giving all Chargers fans PTSD. Their only win came late in the season, and the offense was completely inept. Sad times in Chargerville, and the Chargers continued to charger until they chargered up the 5 to LA. Los Angeles Rams, 2009. Finishing 1-15, the St. Louis Rams' 2009 season was an exercise in futility. The defense was dreadful, and head coach Steve Spagnuolo's schemes seemed ineffective, even though he is a defensive guru. Spagnuolo would eventually give way to Mr. 7-9 Jeff Fisher, which was also an awful existence. The Miami Dolphins, 2007. At 1-15, the Dolphins came dangerously close to having a reverse perfect season, one the league would still be talking about to this day. Their only win came in overtime, and every game felt like a struggle. I wonder, do they pop champagne on every December 16th to celebrate this one win too? Fuck off. Head coach Cam Cameron couldn't find any answers, and the roster was shitty. The silver lining was that Bill Parcells was brought in after the season to overhaul the roster, but 2007 was as painful as it gets for Dolphins fans, and they know pain. Minnesota Vikings, 1984. With a 3-13 record, the Vikings' 1984 season was miserable on and off the field. Head coach Les Steckel implemented a militaristic approach that alienated players, resulting in angry losses. But hey, at least the players got yelled at. Fans were fed up, and Steckel was fired after just one season. The New England Patriots, 1990. The Patriots' 1-15 season was a low point for a team that had little success at the time. Yeah, that sounds wild. The franchise was plagued by poor ownership and front office dysfunction as the team was sold multiple times. People forget that before Robert Kraft gave this team a happy ending, the Pats were the Phoenix Coyotes of the NFL. Head coach Rod Rust seemed overwhelmed, and the team put up less of a fight in most games than Chris Christie's pants in this photo. New Orleans Saints, 1980. The Saints went 1-15 in 1980, earning the nickname the Aints, as fans took a page from Your Mom and famously wore bags over their heads. Archie Manning, one of the team's few bright spots, was running for his life like Zach Bryan running from Brianna Chicken Fry. Jesus Christ, why am I even bringing this up? I don't know these people, but I hate them. Their only win was somehow an overtime victory against the 49ers, who would go on to become the team of the decade. The New York Giants, 1974. Going 2-12, the Giants hit a low point in a season that felt doomed from the start. They played home games at the shitty Yale Bowl, which only added to the surreal sense of disconnection from their fan base. The Yale Bowl is in Connecticut and does not have locker rooms. The team was directionless, with a weak offense and a defense that couldn't stop the Rizzler from rizzing. Well, at least one of their 2 wins came against Dallas. Yeah, back when the Giants could beat Dallas. New York Jets 2020. The Jets' 2-14 season was the culmination of years of failed drafts and a revolving door of questionable coaching hires. Head coach Adam Gase's tenure was stranger than he was, and quarterback Sam Darnold saw more ghosts than one of those shows where the people go out and supposedly hunt ghosts. Of course, they even blew the #1 pick by unexpectedly beating the Rams and Browns in consecutive weeks and ended up with Zach Wilson. But of course, that led to Aaron Rodgers. The Philadelphia Eagles 1968. With a 2-12 record, the Eagles' 1968 season was one of pure frustration. So bad, in fact, fans pelted Santa Claus with snowballs, a moment that has become part of Philly lore. Apparently, the Santa Claus in question was a fucking drunk and was being an asshole, but that just makes the story even more Philly fan. They wouldn't put up a winning record for another decade. And also a quick shout out to 2011 when Vince Young called the Eagles the dream team and they finished 8-8. Pittsburgh Steelers 1969. The standard is the standard with the Stillers, as they have not had a losing season since 2003, and even then they still had 6 wins. Going 1-13, the Steelers were one of the league's worst teams in 1969. Nice. However, this miserable season marked a turning point as it led to the hiring of Chuck Noll and the drafting of Terry Bradshaw. Still, at the time, fans had little reason for optimism as the team had been a bottom dweller for years. Yes, the Steelers were bottom dwellers once upon a time. San Francisco 49ers 2004. The 2004 49ers finished 2-14, marking a sharp decline for a franchise that had once been synonymous with success. Ownership issues and poor management decisions had left their roster depleted, and retread Dennis Erickson was less effective than a vasectomy on Antonio Rogers Cromartie. Tim Rattay was the starting QB. Also shout out to the lone Chip Kelly season in 2016, which also produced 2 measly wins before he got fired. Seattle Seahawks 1992. The Seahawks went 2-14 in a season where their offense was historically inept, scoring just 140 points all year. That is 9 points a game. The defense was actually decent, but the offense's complete lack of production made every game terrible. Congrats though, that season gave them the right to draft Rick Meyer. Tampa Bay Buccaneers 1976. The Bucs' inaugural season was a disaster, finishing 0-14 and setting the standard for hopelessness. Head coach John McKay famously joked about the team's execution, saying he was in favor of it. The defense was terrible, and the offense blocked about as well as Twitter does now. Expansion teams are always expected to struggle, but the Bucs took it to the extreme, like a vandal rocking the mic. Tennessee Titans 2014. With a 2-14 record, the Titans' 2014 season was more painful to watch than an Uwe Boll movie. Quarterback Jake Locker was often injured and struggled when he did play. All the losing resulted in Marcus Mariota, which is like getting socks for Christmas. And finally, Washington Commanders 2013. The Commanders' 3-13 season was marked by drama both on and off the field. It was a season of dysfunction, and a promising 2012 campaign disappeared like the cartilage in RG3's knee. This was a team coached by legend Mike Shanahan that featured future star coaches like his son Kyle, Matt LaFleur, and Sean McVay. My God, Dan Snyder was so fucking dumb. I wish he was still the owner. Well, there you have it. Please subscribe for more interesting videos on football. And don't forget to check out UnderdogFantasy.com from the link below and use my code 5points to get a first-time deposit bonus of up to $1,000. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.